Fog crept lazily along the cobbled streets of Derry, thick and low like it was trying to hide something. The houses, tall and Victorian, loomed like silent witnesses, their windows creaking with every gust of cold wind. A strange mixture of smells filled the air: musty basement, damp newspapers, and oddly, candy. Caramel, cotton candy, and something else. Something sweet and sickening. It was as if a forgotten carnival had drifted through town, leaving behind only shadows and shivers. But what unsettled the gang the most were the red balloons, tied to sewer grates, iron fences, mailbox posts. Silent, still, and somehow ... watching. Inside the mystery machine, Scooby and Shaggy were curled up in the back seat, clinging to each other. "Raw red balloons again, Shaggy," Scooby whimpered. "Like, I told you we shouldn't have taken this creepy detour," Shaggy whispered, nervously glancing out the fogged-up window. In the front seat, Fred tightened his grip on the steering wheel. "Guys, the mayor of Derry hired us for this. Kids have gone missing. No traces, no clues. Just a red balloon every time it happens. Or ends with a totally terrifying scream," Shaggy added, already trembling. Velma, scanning a digital map on her tablet, adjusted her glasses. "There's a pattern to the disappearances. End of each month. And they all center around one location. The abandoned carnival on the edge of town." Daphne, looking up from her mirror, frowned. "That same carnival keeps showing up in the background of every photo, like it's waiting for someone to notice." Suddenly, a distant, high-pitched giggle echoed through the woods outside, unnaturally distorted, like it was coming from an old record. Pop! A balloon exploded nearby, the sound so sharp and close it made everyone jump. Fred slammed the brakes. Velma dropped her tablet. Scooby leapt into Shaggy's arms, who was already halfway under the seat. And then, in the middle of the road ahead, ... they saw it. A clown, tall, pale, smiling, holding a red balloon, gently swaying in the fog, and dancing. "Geezoinks, that's no party clown," Shaggy stammered. "Run?" Scooby squeaked. "No, not yet," Fred said firmly. "We find out what this is together." But as the headlights cut through the mist, the clown vanished. In his place, a single red balloon, tied to a storm drain, bobbing slowly up and down, like it was inviting them inside. Whatever was happening in Derry, it wasn't just a prank. It was something deeper, something darker, and it had just begun. The first thing they noticed about Derry was how quiet it was. Not peaceful, unnerving. The wind whispered through rows of half-empty houses like it was warning them to turn around. Leaves crunched under the tires of the mystery machine as Fred turned down. Yet another narrow street lined with cracked sidewalks and crooked lampposts. "This place looks like it hasn't had a sunny day since 1983, Daphne muttered, pulling her purple scarf tighter around her neck. Velma squinted through the fog outside. "There's something strange about this town's atmosphere. It's not just gloomy. It's single quotes S. heavy." Inside the van, Scooby and Shaggy were trying to distract themselves with a foot-long sub they picked up hours ago. "We sure this is the right Derry?" Shaggy asked mid-bite. "Because, it feels more like Scaryville." "Row-aha," Scooby agreed, licking mustard off his paw. Fred parked in front of the town's historic inn, an aging building with faded white paint, creaky steps, and wooden signs that swayed with the wind. A banner hung crookily across the porch. Derry Harvest Festival canceled until further notice. They were greeted by a pale, nervous woman named Mrs. Hawkins, who ran the inn. Her eyes darted constantly, like she expected something, or someone, to appear behind them at any moment. "You must be the Mystery Inc. team," she said in a shaky voice, ushering them inside. "We single quotes read ... grateful you came. The police won't talk. The mayor won't act. People are scared. The children..." She stopped. Her voice cracked. Just stay away from the sewers. Velma leaned in. We heard about the red balloons, Mrs. Hawkins paled. If you see one, don't follow it. The inn was cozy but felt off. The fireplace was lit, the rugs clean, but there was a strange scent in the air, like burnt sugar and damp cotton. Shaggy sniffed. Does anyone else smell like candy and wet socks? It smells like trouble, Scooby added. Later that evening, they unpacked in their rooms. Fred unrolled a map of the town, marking off the locations of the 5 disappearances. They all happened within a 5-block radius, he explained. And every witness mentioned one thing, a red balloon. Including the mailman, Velma said. He said it floated past his truck and then ... vanished. Vanished? Daphne asked. Into a storm drain, Velma answered. Suddenly, a loud creak echoed from the hallway. Then, a soft giggle. Faint, but chilling. Everyone froze. Is that you, Scoob? Shaggy asked. Scooby shook his head. Oh, not me ... Fred grabbed a flashlight and opened the hallway door. The corridor was empty, except for one thing. Tied to the door of their room was a red balloon. Okay, that's officially creepy, Daphne said. Fred stepped forward cautiously. The balloon bobbed gently, as if it had just been placed there. No one else was in sight. Velma scanned the floor. No footprints, no string dragged. It's like it appeared out of nowhere. Scooby whimpered and hid behind Shaggy, whose knees were visibly shaking. I think we just found our first clue, Shaggy muttered. Or it found us, Daphne said softly. That night, Scooby and Shaggy insisted on sleeping together in a single bed, stacking chairs against the door. Fred stayed up late organizing their plan for the next morning, starting with interviews, location scouting, and inspecting the sewer system. But long after the lights were out, Velma stood at the window, watching fog roll over the town square. In the distance, by the flickering lamplight, she saw it. Another red balloon, this one tied to the gate of the abandoned carnival grounds. She didn't say a word. She simply adjusted her glasses, whispered jinkies, and wrote it down in her notebook. Morning in Derry brought no comfort. The fog hadn't lifted. It had thickened, swallowing the sunlight and draping the town in a permanent gray haze. Even the birds seemed to avoid the skies above. The gang gathered in the inn's modest dining room, sipping bitter coffee and chewing on cold toast. Fred unfolded the town map across the table. Our first stop, the old Derry carnival grounds. It's mentioned in every incident report, always spotted in the background of photos or near the last known locations of the missing kids. Velma nodded. According to local records, the carnival closed in 1995 after a fire destroyed part of the main tent. No one ever rebuilt it, but strangely ... the property was never sold or demolished. Scooby peeked over the edge of the table. A carnival? He whimpered. With cotton candy? Shaggy asked hopefully. Velma raised an eyebrow, more like asbestos in trauma. Let's check it out before lunch, Fred said. Shaggy groaned. Why is it never after lunch? The path to the carnival was overgrown with thorny vines and broken fences. As they approached the entrance gate, a rusted arch that once read, Derry Delights, the air grew colder. The smell of burned wood lingered, but there was also something sweeter underneath, like syrup gone bad. Scooby paused. You smell that? Shaggy sniffed. Smells like roasted marshmallows mixed with dead leaves. Daphne crouched by the gate, pointing to something half buried in the dirt. A string, she said. Red, like the ones used for helium balloons. Velma picked it up with tweezers from her kit, frayed on the edge, torn recently. This wasn't here long. Inside the carnival grounds, silence reigned. The carousel was still standing, though its horses were cracked and peeling. The Ferris wheel loomed in the fog, its cars creaking with each breeze. Torn posters flapped against walls. Faded images of clowns and fire eaters grinning from the past. "Okay, this is officially nightmare material," Daphne whispered, stepping over a fallen popcorn stand. Fred took photos while Velma cataloged the surroundings. "Look at these drag marks," she said, pointing to tracks in the dirt. "Something heavy was moved here ... toward that tent." The gang approached a partially collapsed big top, its red and white fabric torn and hanging like curtains. Inside, the smell of mildew was overpowering. Scooby sneezed. "Rachu!" Shaggy gasped. "Scoob, look!" On the center platform sat a small red shoe, child-sized, clean, untouched by time or weather. Fred's brow furrowed. "This can't be from 1995. It's too new." Just then, Daphne spotted movement near the back of the tent. Did anyone see that? Something or someone just moved. They rushed toward the back, only to find a large mirror leaning against a wooden frame. It was cracked down the center. Scooby looked into it and yelped. "Rah-rah! It moved." "What moved?" Fred asked. "My reflection." Scooby pointed. "It winked." Velma examined the mirror. "It's a trick mirror, like ones in fun houses. But this one, ... it's wired." She pulled back part of the frame, revealing a small camera hidden inside. "Someone's watching us." Shaggy's voice dropped. "Watching us ... Like, right now?" Fred straightened. "Time to split up and search the area. Daphne, you come with me. Velma, you take Scooby and Shaggy." "Oh, great," Shaggy muttered. "We get the haunted tent. You get to walk with the only flashlight that works." As they split up, Daphne took the lead beside Fred. She examined a torn ticket booth and peeked inside. "There's an old guest book here. Last signature dated a month ago. The same week the last child disappeared." Fred nodded. "So someone's been using this place. Or hiding here," Daphne said, eyes scanning the fog. Meanwhile, Velma's group stumbled into what remained of the funhouse. The warped walls reflected distorted versions of themselves. Scooby growled at one mirror that stretched him like spaghetti. "This place gives me the creeps," Shaggy muttered. And not the fun kind. Suddenly, they heard music, faint ... but getting louder. "Do you want to play? Come out, and stay ... It echoed through the funhouse like a broken lullaby. "Zoinks! That's it. I'm retiring," Shaggy whispered. "Well, let's go." Scooby yelped. They turned to run, but the hallway had changed. Where there was a door a second ago, now there was only a mirror. "We're trapped," Velma said. "Wait, that mirror has SMUDG is ... She pressed a panel. A hidden door opened. They stumbled out just in time to see a flash of red in the distance, a balloon drifting between trees. Fred and Daphne rejoined them. "We saw it too," Fred said. "The clown. Just a glimpse, near the Ferris wheel. We followed it, but it vanished." Velma exhaled. "Someone is orchestrating this, watching us, luring us, and leaving clues," Daphne added. "To what end?" Fred looked toward the trees. "We're not done here, but we need to be smart." Scooby's teeth chattered. "We're really smart." As they turned back toward the exit, they found something unexpected tied to the gate they had just entered through. 5 red balloons. One for each of them. Each balloon had a name written on it, in crayon. Shaggy read his aloud, like, "What kind of psycho writes our names on balloons?" And then, a soft giggle echoed again. Louder, closer, pop. One balloon burst on its own. Velma looked at the others. He's watching, and now, he knows we're here. The fog never left Derry. It had become a second skin, clinging to every brick, tree, and breath. That morning, the gang huddled in the lobby of the inn. The 5 red balloons they had found the day before now tied to a chair in the corner, swaying slightly, as if something had exhaled near them. Velma stood with her arms crossed, examining the photos she'd printed from the hidden mirror camera in the carnival. Someone planted surveillance gear. That mirror wasn't from 1995. That was custom work. Modern, clean installation. Fred nodded. That means someone's been watching the carnival, possibly living there. Why write our names on the balloons, though? Daphne asked. It feels personal. That's what scares me, Velma muttered. I've been scared since we got here, said Shaggy, holding Scooby's tail like a lifeline. And now this creepy clown is like learning our names? What's next? Personalized nightmares. At that moment, the inn's power flickered. The lights dimmed. Scooby and Shaggy screamed in unison, diving behind a couch. A loud clunk echoed upstairs, followed by a soft giggle. Fred bolted up. That came from Velma's room. They rushed upstairs. Velma opened her door slowly and gasped. The walls were covered with drawings, dozens of them. Crayon sketches taped in uneven rows, each showing a different scene. Scooby running in fear, Shaggy hiding under a table, Daphne screaming in front of a mirror, Fred falling into a trap, Velma alone in a maze. What in the world? Daphne whispered. Fred scanned the room. These weren't here yesterday. Someone got in. Or something, Shaggy murmured. Maybe we're already in his circus show. Velma stepped forward and pointed to the corner of one sketch, a small signature. A symbol, more like a doodle, a balloon inside an eye. He's watching us, she said. And he's not guessing. These scenes haven't happened yet, but they will. Later that day, the gang returned to the carnival, determined to find answers. Fred had drawn up a floor plan of the grounds and assigned sections. This time, we stay in constant contact, he instructed. Walkie-talkies on. Check in every 10 minutes. Daphne agreed to go with Velma to search the funhouse again. Fred chose the ticketing and backstage area. Shaggy and Scooby were reluctantly assigned to the carousel. But why us? Shaggy protested. Why not split up by, bravery levels? You know that place better than any of us, Velma teased. You've already screamed through it once, Scooby whimpered. Oh, no fair, ... While Fred examined broken crates backstage, he found an open box with costume pieces, clown noses, a tattered vest, oversized shoes. A faint trail of glitter led behind a curtain, but before he could investigate further, his radio buzzed. Velma to Fred, we've got something. He rushed to the funhouse and found Velma pointing to a loose panel in the wall. Inside was a notebook, old, weather-worn, but filled with recent entries. She flipped it open. Drawings. Notes. Sketches of children's faces. And? Daphne cut in, pulling out a folded piece of paper tucked in the back. A map of Derry. Marked locations. These are our rooms in the inn. He's been following us, Fred said, jaw tight. Suddenly, the radios crackled again. This time with static followed by Scooby's panicked voice. Fred! Velma! Our help? Elsewhere in the carnival, Scooby and Shaggy had wandered from the carousel after Scooby noticed what looked like footprints, small, the barefoot, leading toward the cotton candy stand. But when they followed them behind the booth, the fog thickened unnaturally. The path twisted. The buildings didn't look the same. Oh, are we even in the same carnival anymore? Shaggy whispered. Scooby sniffed the air. Smells ... sweet. Then they heard it. The music box. Come out and play. Don't be shy ... And then, between the trees, he appeared. The clown. Dancing. Spinning slowly. Holding a balloon. Smiling. No. Grinning. Impossibly wide. Eyes glowing faintly. Roro, Scooby squeaked. Like Rune! Shaggy screamed, pulling Scooby by the collar as the clown vanished into the mist, then reappeared, closer. They ran, tripping over roots and crashing through old stands, until Scooby spotted the funhouse exit and dove through the door with Shaggy close behind. Back together, the gang listened as Shaggy explained what they'd seen. It wasn't just a clown, he said breathlessly. It knew us. It said my name. It danced like it was waiting for us. Velma sat in silence for a moment. This isn't a random haunting. This is targeted. Someone, or something, is using fear as a weapon. Our fear. Daphne glanced toward the mirror walls of the funhouse. And the drawings? The balloons with our names. It's trying to isolate us. Pick us off. Fred stood. Then we fight back. We build a trap. Tonight. He spread out a new sketch. A plan to lure the clown into the carousel using the balloons as bait, with Scooby and Shaggy as distractions. Shaggy's eyes widened. Distractions? You mean bait? Run a bait, Scooby yelped. Daphne smiled, trying to lighten the mood. Think of it as ... acting. You play scared, like always. We're real scared, Scooby muttered. Fred explained the plan in detail. Tripwires, cages, mirrors to confuse the target. Tomorrow, he said firmly, we end this. Night in Derry wasn't just dark, it was alive. The fog crawled over the pavement like fingers stretching out from the sewers, and every creak or gust of wind sounded like footsteps behind you. In the heart of the abandoned carnival, the gang moved like shadows, setting up what they hoped would be the final act in a nightmare that had gone on too long. Fred stood in front of the carousel, now surrounded by carefully placed ropes, pressure plates, and pulleys. Okay, everyone. Final check. Here's how it works. He pointed to a control box built from scrap wires, gears, and a power source scavenged from the carnival's old fuse room. We draw him into the center of the carousel. When he steps onto this mat bam, the trap activates. Lights blind him, the mirrors close in, and the cage drops. Velma double-checked the system. We've wired the mirrors with motion sensors. Once triggered, they'll rotate, disorienting him. And Scooby's collar cam gives us a live feed. Daphne stood beside a makeup table, holding a spray can. And I added something extra. I found leftover glitter paint in the dressing room. If he's using illusions, a little shimmer might reveal wires, masks, or projections. Shaggy peeked around the corner, whispering, any chance this plan ends with us not being eaten by a demonic clown? Fred grinned. That's the idea. Run clown snacks. Scooby added. The bait was simple. 5 red balloons, each with a name. They placed them on wooden chairs surrounding the carousel, each tied to the seat with delicate string. A small speaker hidden nearby played the faint tune of a child's music box, echoing eerily into the mist. Round and round, they ride the wheel. Catch them now and make them squeal. Okay, that's deeply unsettling, Daphne whispered. Everyone took their positions. Fred in the control booth, Velma with the camera monitor, Daphne hiding behind the cotton candy stand. Scooby and Shaggy, dressed in mismatched clown hats and feather boas, tiptoed near the carousel, very reluctantly. Oh, why are we dressed like this again? Scooby muttered. Because apparently we're irresistible bait, Shaggy groaned. Minutes passed, then an hour. Fog pressed in. The music looped. Nothing. Scooby yawned. I think he's not coming ... double quotes. Shaggy nodded. Maybe he got lost in the fog. Like, we should just pack up and then laughter. Not a recording. Not a giggle. A deep, echoing cackle that rolled through the night like thunder underwater. The air dropped in temperature. The carousel lights flickered. And then he appeared. The clown, taller than before, his eyes glowing faintly yellow. The red balloon in his hand swirled in an unnatural wind. He stepped onto the edge of the ride, spinning slowly as if admiring the decorations. His smile was wide, too knowing. Fred whispered into the radio. Hold, not yet. Let him step onto the mat. Velma adjusted the feed. Camera's on. He's moving clockwise. Daphne whispered, He's staring at the balloon with Fred's name. The clown paused, then slowly turned towards Scooby and Shaggy. He raised a hand. The balloon floated into the air. And then P-O-O-F popped in midair without touching anything. Scooby's eyes widened. It's magic. Or a trick. Velma countered. Fred whispered again. Now he's on the mat. Trigger the trap. Fred pulled the lever. Instantly, the carousel roared to life. Lights flashed. The mirrors spun inward, reflecting dozens of distorted clown faces. A steel cage dropped from above with a slam. But he wasn't there. Where did he go? Velma yelled. The clown had vanished, leaving only laughter in his place. Suddenly, the mirrors lit up one by one with the gang's faces. Not reflections, moving images like memories or fears. Velma saw herself alone, lost in a library with no exit. Daphne saw her own face, smeared with clown makeup. Fred appeared trapped in a maze of mirrors. Shaggy was surrounded by shadowy arms reaching for him. And Scooby ... Roro, he whispered. He saw himself alone, being dragged into a sewer grate. This isn't possible, Velma cried. These are projections. Psychological manipulation, Fred shouted. Shut it down! He flipped every switch. Lights blinked. Gears spun. Then another laugh. This time, behind them. The clown was standing outside the trap, perfectly calm, untouched, and smiling wider than ever. Thanks for the show, he whispered, voice like a record played backwards. Now ... it's my turn. The lights exploded in a burst of sparks. When the fog cleared, the clown was gone. The trap was destroyed. One of the balloons lay popped near the mirror maze, smeared with red paint, or something worse. The cage sat twisted. The gang was shaken, silent. Daphne was the first to speak. He was inside ... then he wasn't. He manipulated the mirrors. He used us against ourselves. Velma stood slowly, dusting off her skirt. He anticipated everything. Our fear was the trigger, not the pressure plate. Fred looked down, defeated. We set a perfect trap for a human, but this thing, Shaggy groaned, is like so not human. Scooby nodded, first standing up. Oh, a real monster. Fred clenched his fist. Then we outthink him. Again. We regroup. Find out who's behind this. If it's a person. Because if it is ... they're good. Velma pointed to the cage. One of the ropes was sliced with precision. Someone sabotaged the trap. Daphne froze. You mean someone among us? Velma shook her head. No, someone was here, closer than we thought. And they're not done. The cold fog hung thick like a curtain around the twisted metal skeleton of the carnival's Ferris wheel as the Mystery Inc. gang prepared for what might be their final encounter with the Red Balloon Clown. Fred tightened the straps on his utility belt, glancing at his team. Tonight, we end this. Everyone knows their role. Daphne, you watch the exits. Velma, coordinate from the van. Scooby, Shaggy, you're the bait again. Shaggy groaned, like, I'm totally fine being the bait. Just don't ask me to dance. Scooby added with a grin, Rogreed. No dancing. The plan was simple. Lure the clown out with Scooby and Shaggy in clown hats and oversized shoes, while Daphne and Fred laid traps around the carnival. Velma monitored security feeds and radioed instructions. Scooby and Shaggy shuffled awkwardly near the carousel, their nervous energy palpable. Remember, stay close, Scooby whispered. Yeah, like, close enough to run away fast, Shaggy muttered, eyeing the shadows. Suddenly, the fog shifted, and a soft whistle echoed. Here comes trouble, Daphne said quietly. The clown appeared on the Ferris wheel platform, waving a balloon that glowed eerily red in the moonlight. His grin was wider than ever. Roro! Scooby yelped. Shaggy gulped. Like, run? They began a slow, exaggerated dance, arms flailing, legs stumbling. drawing the clown closer with each awkward step. Meanwhile, Daphne and Fred moved silently, setting up tripwires near the funhouse entrance. Daphne whispered, "This time, we're ready for him." Fred nodded. "If he steps in here, the net drops. No mistakes." From the van, Velma's voice crackled. "Clown's moving toward the carousel. Scooby and Shaggy, keep him focused." The clown's laughter echoed as he approached, circling the two clowns awkwardly. Scooby's tail twitched nervously. Suddenly, the clown lunged, but Scooby slipped, tripping over a hidden wire. His fall triggered a net to spring from the ceiling, trapping the clown in a cascade of rope. Shaggy laughed nervously. "Right on cue." But the clown wasn't done. With a sudden burst of strength, he tore free and took off running through the carnival, laughing wildly. "After him!" Fred shouted. What followed was a chaotic, yet hilarious chase. The clown darted through the funhouse hallways, slipping between mirrors that distorted his figure. Daphne kept pace, using her phone's flashlight to navigate and block his escape routes. Scooby and Shaggy, struggling to keep up, accidentally knocked over a stand of popcorn machines, sending clouds of buttery smoke billowing through the air. "Like, this is worse than the clown," Shaggy joked, coughing. Scooby growled and sniffed. Suddenly, he stopped and sniffed again, picking up a faint scent. A rubber," Scooby whispered. They followed the scent behind the Ferris wheel and found a hidden trapdoor. Fred and Daphne joined them, weapons drawn, or at least sticks and flashlights. Carefully, they opened the door and descended into a dimly lit underground room, the clown's lair. Posters of red balloons lined the walls, with names scrawled beneath each. Photographs of the missing children and a disturbing collage of the gang's faces were pinned up. A figure sat in the corner, hunched over, wearing the iconic red clown costume, but with the mask pulled off. Fred stepped forward cautiously. "Who are you? Why all this?" The man looked up, eyes wild but tired. "I'm Henry Trask, once the carnival's lead clown." His voice cracked. "They shut us down after the fire. I lost everything, my family, my friends, my mind." Velma approached slowly. "You wanted revenge, the kids?" Henry shook his head. "Not the children. Just scared them. Tried to keep them away from the real danger in Derry. Something worse hides here." Daphne frowned. "What do you mean?" Henry's eyes darted nervously. "The town, the sewers. There's a creature down there, feeding on fear. I thought if I scared the children, they'd stay home. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Suddenly, the lair door slammed shut behind them. Scooby barked. Ruh? Fred checked the lock, sabotaged. Velma frowned. "Looks like Henry's not the only threat." Back outside, Velma pieced it all together. Henry was driven mad by the fire and the town's secrets, but he's not the real monster. The red balloons? The disappearing children? The fears we felt? There's something deeper. Something supernatural. Henry's madness was a cover-up. Fred nodded. "We have to find the real source before more kids disappear." Daphne added, "And keep Henry safe. He might help us stop this thing." Scooby and Shaggy exchanged relieved looks. The clown was unmasked, but the mystery wasn't over. The night air in Derry was thick with anticipation and fog that clung to every surface like a damp blanket. After capturing Henry Trask, the man behind the clown disguise, the gang knew their work was far from over. Henry's revelations about a creature lurking in the sewers filled them with dread. Something far more sinister was pulling the strings, and the missing children were still in danger. Gathered back at the inn, Fred outlined their final plan. "We go underground, into the sewers. We find the source of this nightmare, and we end it." Velma adjusted her glasses and nodded. "The sewers are a maze, but I've mapped out the likely spots. We'll need light, traps, and nerves of steel." Daphne pulled her jacket tighter around her. "And maybe a little luck." Scooby and Shaggy exchanged worried glances, both clutching their flashlights like security blankets. "Ready?" Scooby asked nervously. "Like, as ready as I'll ever be?" Shaggy answered, his voice shaky but determined. Descending into the damp darkness, the gang felt the weight of the unknown pressing on them. The smell of whetstone, decay, and stale water filled the air. Faint echoes bounced off the walls, distant drips, the scurrying of rats, and sometimes whispers. Velma led the way, her flashlight scanning the graffiti-scarred tunnel walls. "This area is close to where the last balloon was found tied to a sewer grate," she explained. "If the creature is real, it should be here." Fred checked his gear and nodded to the others. "Stay close, no distractions." But it wasn't long before the fog that clung to the surface was replaced by a mist that seeped from the shadows themselves. Suddenly, the ground trembled beneath their feet. A guttural growl echoed, low and menacing. Daphne gasped, gripping Fred's arm. From the darkness emerged a towering, twisted figure, its skin pale and slick, eyes glowing with a sickly yellow light. The creature's grin was wide, teeth sharp and dripping with slime. A red balloon floated beside it, bobbing eerily in the stale air. "Welcome to my playground," it hissed. The chase was on. Scooby barked and darted forward, trying to distract the creature with his trademark agility. Shaggy followed, dodging slime-coated walls and leaping over puddles. "Like, I didn't sign up for this kind of fun," Shaggy yelled, panting. Fred and Daphne split off, laying traps made from ropes and reflective mirrors, hoping to confuse and ensnare the creature. Velma stayed behind, monitoring their position via walkie-talkies. The creature lunged, smashing one trap to pieces. But the mirrors caught its reflection, multiplying its image and causing it to hesitate, just long enough for Fred to throw a net. Scooby charged, biting the creature's ankle and howling as the others tightened the net. The creature struggled, but its movement slowed. Fred pulled a heavy cage door over it, locking it in place. Exhausted, the gang gathered around the cage. Velma pulled out a flashlight and shone it on the creature's face, revealing something horrifying and pitiful at once. A distorted, childlike visage, twisted by fear and loneliness. "It's been feeding on fear," Velma said softly, "manipulating the town's terror to survive." Daphne nodded. The balloons were its way of luring kids, promising fun but trapping them in its nightmare. Scooby sighed. Ridiculous. Back above ground, the sun was rising. The fog began to lift, and Derry seemed to breathe a sigh of relief. At the inn, the gang reflected on their ordeal. Daphne smiled, brushing hair from her face. "We faced our fears and found the truth." Fred clapped Scooby on the back. "Great work, buddy." Scooby grinned, tail wagging. Shaggy laughed nervously. "Like, next time, can we pick a mystery with fewer monsters?" Velma smiled, closing her notebook. "Every mystery has its monsters, Shaggy. We just make sure we solve them." Suddenly, a faint giggle echoed. Low, distant, but unmistakably familiar. From the shadows, a single red balloon floated up, then burst with a soft pop. "You may have won this time, Mystery Inc., but the circus never truly leaves town, ...